Welcome to Gentle Restorative. My name is Sandra. Go ahead, close your eyes. Give me a deep inhale and let it go. We're going to draw the shoulders up, take them back and down, and then release the chin down towards the collarbone. I want you to notice, did you create an arch in the low back in doing that? So if you did, draw the stomach in. We still want a straight spine. But we want those shoulders back, chin tucked gently. And then as you inhale the arms up, take the gaze up to the hands and exhale to the heart. Right here, set an amazing intention for your practice and own it. And then we're going to release the hands. Let's take the legs to cobbler. And just kind of, I say wiggle it out. This isn't really wiggling. Let's sway it out. Just a little movement. Sink into each hip one at a time, side to side. And then, well, the reason I told you to own your intention is because my lead-in question to this theme is, what do you take ownership of? I know that is a very broad question. Okay, come back to stillness, sit up nice and tall. And then kind of looking at the space in front of you, let's only hinge forward a couple inches to the halfway point. So don't go further than the halfway point, but if that 45-degree angle isn't accessible anyway, just a couple inches. I want to make sure we're still lengthening. Now, soften the muscles in the legs. Can they sink a little bit more? If you want to, you can come forward a little bit at a time. So, in answering that question, obviously, you could say, well, I take ownership of the things that I own. So we're talking about material things, right? Like, I own this bolster, or you might say it owns me. I'm not sure. I own this tapestry, I own this Buddha picture, right? So things. What about your emotions? Go ahead, drop this down lower. Do you own your emotions? So that's what we're talking about. That's our theme. Have you ever said, I'm really setting you up because we've all said this, I am mad because she ... I am sad because he ... right? And when we throw the word because in there, doesn't that take away our ownership, right? I'm implying that the only reason I'm mad or sad is because somebody did something, right? They triggered that emotion in me. Go ahead and make your way back up. Perfect. Let's go ahead and take the right leg forward. I'm just going to kind of turn off to the side a little bit. Left foot's tucked in, Janu Shirshasana. Pull that right hip back, of course. As you sit up tall, left hand outside of the right knee, right hand behind you. Flex that front foot. Find your length and exhale to the right. So really push off that leg. It's a peaceful twist. So think about that. When's the last time you put out a sentence that sounded like that? I am an emotion because, right? Let's go ahead and release the twist. I'm going to let my arms swing all the way around, right hand to the left knee. I do want to pause here to lengthen again. And then just a soft twist here to the left. So the question then I have as a follow-up is, should we own our feelings? Now, of course, if you're thinking the answer is no, which is fair, we also shouldn't use blame for our feelings, right? When we say, I am something because of something, that's blame. I'm just blaming whoever I think did something to me, right? That's not good. That's victim mode. But do we have to take ownership? So go ahead, release the twist. Inhale, both arms up. Interlace the fingers, stretch the palms to the ceiling. And then we're slowly hinging forward into a fold. Now, as you come down, you can drop your arms so they catch you and they're guiding you into the fold. If you want to keep your fingers interlaced, you may. And then go ahead, walk your way back up. I'm taking my left hand to the ground beside me. As I swoop that right arm up, I'm coming up onto my left knee. So lift it up, kind of a variation of a side plank, right? You can move that top arm around, see where it feels perfect and right. So see, if you don't like this pose, right, and it frustrates you, don't say I'm frustrated because Sandra said I should do this pose, right? You're shifting blame onto me, and frankly, I am not going to own your frustration, right? Good example, yeah? So do you own it? I don't know. We're going to talk about that. Come on down. Really, the true answer is you shouldn't feel frustration in your yoga practice, because if you didn't like that pose, you could have changed it already. So there, I just fixed that for you. Okay, go ahead and stretch out the left leg, tuck the right foot in, pull the hip back, of course. Sit up tall, right hand to the outside of the left knee, left hand behind you, big inhale. Exhale, twist to the left. When you get to an exhale, gently unravel. Remember, the arms are just sweeping all the way over to the other side. I'm going to pause to inhale and sit up. Exhale to the right. Again, wait for that exhale to unravel. And then inhale the arms up. We're interlacing the fingers again, stretching the palms to the ceiling. Wait for an exhale to come forward into your fold. And again, decide if you need to let go with the arms and have them cushion the journey down. And then walk the hands up. Right hand next to you. Sweep that left arm up and lift the hips. Come on to that right knee and let that top arm explore its space. When you're ready, come on back down. Hug the legs in. And we're going to set up something fabulously restorative. So we're going to need the bolster. Let's grab the blanket as well and a block. Let's see how that works for us, right? We can always make changes. So I'm going to put this block, it's going to be behind you. I need my bolster at an angle right up on top of that block. And then just have that block. This is a blanket. Have a blanket where you can reach it. So my right hip is to my bolster. My feet are both draping off towards the left. Okay, so I'm going to let you decide. Let me give you some options with this blanket. We're coming into a twist, right? We sit up tall, we turn to the bolster, we come on down. So you might want the blanket as a pillow. You could use it, open it up and cover up with it if you're cold. But I'm thinking more about the placement of your legs, because perhaps this isn't working for you and you want to shift your legs a little bit. You could put the blanket between the left knee and the right foot to make this more compassionate. You could put it underneath the right knee to see what works for you. Just remember to sit up tall, turn the heart to the bolster, and come on down. Now, as you come on down, if it's okay with your neck, this is a tougher twist, you can put the left ear down on the bolster. If you start to go that direction and it's not feeling good, I want you to put your right ear on the bolster. Those of you who have the left ear down, I will tell you when to make the switch so we are all facing the same direction. Fair enough? Okay, so while you're there, I want to share with you a Sufi story, a Zen story. So it's about this Zen disciple who approaches his teacher and he says, "Master, I have an uncontrollable temper. Can you help me overcome it?" And so the master says, "That's strange. Can you show it to me?" And the disciple says, "Well, not right now." And the master says, "Why not?" And so the disciple says, "Well, it kind of occurs suddenly." And the master says, "Well, then it cannot be part of your true nature. If that were the case, you wouldn't have any difficulty in showing it. So why do you allow something that isn't yours to worry you?" Now, as the story ends, as most of these stories end, right? The master's words sink in and the disciple gets it. It's a learning lesson and he remembers that message every time he starts to feel his anger. He remembers he doesn't own that and he lets it go. This is kind of a trick question when I was asking you if you should own your emotions. I still don't want you using the word because and blaming it on someone else because you're responsible for your own reactions. But should you own it? We're going to further talk about that. But first, if your left ear is on the bolster, go ahead and turn your head so that the right ear is on the bolster. And of course, I should have mentioned, if you don't have a bolster, you can still do this pose. You could be on the ground or you could put your blanket underneath the rib cage. All right, give me a deep inhale. Loud exhale. And then plant the hands. Let's slowly push your way up. Where I really like to go after this pose is flipping it around so we open up the heart, which requires just a little bit of shifting. My hip is too far back against the bolster. I need it forward so I have room to lay back. So I'm going to start to turn the upper body to the left. You might want to move your legs a little bit, but try to keep a tiny twist in there as you gently lay back. Relax, open the hands. I don't want any pinching in the low back. If you feel anything, take that left foot and plant it on the mat so the knee is facing straight up. And yes, I know I took the twist right out of the pose for you, but it's much safer. Following the breath. And then a slow, long inhale from the root chakra all the way up to the crown, top of the head. Exhale it from the crown all the way back down to the root, base of the spine. Do that one more time. And then let's bring that left arm all the way around. We can use that left hand once it hits the floor to kind of push our way back up. All right, I'm going to move this blanket. I'm just going to sit straight up for a moment. Inhale the right arm up. I want you just to lengthen here. You're going to feel that shoulder lifting out of the socket. I want you to then soften it back down. Bend the elbow, take the hand behind you. Left hand will find the right elbow and gently stretch that out for you. So I want to talk about, was that a trick question? Should I own my anger, or should I recognize that it's not part of me, meaning it's not mine, so why would I own it, right? And I can hear the arguments for both directions. However, let's kind of figure this out. Release the arm. I want you to turn so your left hip is against your bolster. Remember, lengthen before you take this turn. Both legs are draping to the right. And then heart to the bolster, come on down. Again, if you want a more challenging twist, right ear to the bolster, but that is not in sacrifice of the neck. So you decide. Okay, so we have said often in many of these themes that our true inner self is naturally bliss. And I was just going to go on from there with my theme. But then my mind kind of stopped me. And I thought, well, I have said that a lot, but what if you want proof? I mean, who am I to just throw that statement out there and then leave you with, you just have to believe me? So I decided to kind of go back, give you a source so that you're not taking my word for it, that you understand that that is a yogic belief passed down through tradition. And, it does kind of go along with this idea that every other emotion besides bliss is something borrowed. Think about that. Dramatic pause while you think about that. If your right ear's to the bolster, go ahead and turn your head. So if our true inner self is simply bliss, nothing else, yet we experience things like jealousy and fear and sadness and anger, those don't really belong to us then, do they? Where do they come from? And if you think about them in the way that I stated it, is in you're borrowing them, who on earth would do that? Are you out of your mind? Do you want to borrow jealousy from somebody? No, I'm going to answer for you. No, you don't. So in that sense, why would we want to own those emotions? And in fact, if you think about not owning them, then you think about, why do we give them the power to take over, right? All right. I'm going to give you a moment because I'm about to head, we're diving in a little deeper. All right. So I left you here. We're going to slowly push our way up. I'm moving my hands around. They're switching places so that I can shift my hips forward a little bit, turn the heart away from the bolster, and gently lay back. And again, make any accommodations that you need to. Okay, so let's talk about this inner self. The word in Sanskrit is Atman, right? So it means spirit or soul. It's your essence. That Atman is true. I can't think of the word I wanted next, just unadulterated bliss. Now we have another word in Sanskrit. It's called Anatman. Anatman is everything that is not Atman. Bear with me. Just take a deep breath. So Anatman then is the non-self, right? If Atman is my true spirit, it's bliss, It is my inner essence. It's as inner essency as I can get, right? Then everything else has to be Anatman. And so is my physical body part of my true spirit? No, it's not. It's definitely temporary. It's not moving forward with me into another lifetime. My spirit is, my essence, right? Okay. What about my thoughts? What about my mind? Well, no, that's not me either. So that falls under Anatman. You can look at it as Atman, true self, is the absence or negation of all sorrow. This is a lot. I know. There's more. So, so slowly make your way up by bringing that right hand over first. Sorry about the dogs upstairs. It's just one dog, actually. The other one doesn't really bark. Take that left arm up. We're going to stretch the shoulder and then drop it back into its socket. Bend at the elbow so the hand comes behind you. Right hand to that left elbow and stretch that out a little bit. And close your eyes here. Focus on the breath. And then gently release the arms. Perfect. So I'm going to move this bolster. Grab your blocks as well. I figure if I'm talking your ear off with a very deep conversation, your body should be really restorative and happy. So blocks are going down by where your feet are. There's space between them just enough to provide support for my bolster. I do want that blanket. I think I'm going to want a pillow. You decide if you'd like one too. There we go. And then I'm just scooching in a little bit closer to my bolster so I get the calves up on top. And then take a deep inhale, and when you exhale, let everything soften. Do a quick scan, make sure no part of the body is working to hold itself in place. And softly let go. Okay, so Anatman is everything plus the body, plus the mind, plus the ego. The only thing it isn't is that true inner self, right? Okay. Now, how easy is it to make contact with that true inner self, to sit in a space with that Atman? Well, if it were easy, we'd probably, most of us would want to hang out there. But we're here to learn life lessons. So this is not an easy thing. Most of us will never make that contact until we approach enlightenment and don't come back here on earth, right? And so it's not enough to know that it exists. You have to understand that Atman, it's kind of like the center, you know those nesting dolls, right? The Atman's like the very little one that's all the way in the inside. And then it's covered by layers. But in Sanskrit, it's covered by koshas, which means sheath. And so specifically, it's covered by pancha koshas, which, I mean, that covers everything from your physical body, the food you eat, thoughts you think. And so we have the gross body, subtle body, and causal body represented by those pancha koshas. So I told you I was going to give you a resource because you don't have to believe me. And so if you go back to the Taittiriya Upanishad, that is going to bring up these ideas that we've been talking about. Okay, I feel very compelled to be quiet here and give you a break. My mind, I think, may have been running on overtime. but I do have more. So we'll get to that. Slow deep inhale. Slow exhale through the nose this time. Let's continue to do that. In and out through the nose. I want you to see if you can slow the breath down, lengthen it out. Give me one more. And then hug the right knee in. Feel the low back push down. If you want to, you can lift your head and shoulders. See how, I don't know, how close you can get to that right knee without judgment. And then if you lifted the head and shoulders, release them down. Stretch that right leg up to the ceiling. Let's interlace the fingers between, wait a minute, I stumbled on a lot of words there. Interlace your fingers behind your right thigh. And again, option to lift the head and shoulders and then maybe see if that leg wants to come any closer. That left leg is relaxed. It's so happy right now. It is non-envious. It is not owning jealousy of the right leg. Okay, release the upper body and then slowly release the right leg back to the bolster for support. Close your eyes here. We're going to hug that left knee in. Lift the head and shoulders if you like. You are still breathing, right? And then come on back down. Stretch the left leg up. I can say this. Interlace the fingers behind the left thigh. And if you want to, lift the head and shoulders and see if that leg wants to come any closer. It doesn't have to. Release the upper body. Send the left leg back to the bolster. Close your eyes. Okay, so from here, I just want to kind of roll off to a side, however that's easiest for you. For you, I know we have props in the way, and it doesn't have to be graceful. And now we're slowly coming back up. All we need here is one block. So if you do not have a block, perhaps you have a book nearby. You won't believe this. I do have VHS tapes nearby. That would work too. Don't make me explain that. Just something, even if you have like a shoe lying around or something that you can use to put between your feet. So we're coming back to cobbler. I'm taking the block at its thinnest width and putting that between my feet. And then I'm really going to flatten the soles of my feet against that and decide, we each decide individually if you need to pull the feet in closer, right? So I'm going to hang onto the toes in the front of that block, As I sit up, I'm just closing the eyes. So where I've kind of left you is if I am 100% supposed to be natural bliss, where would anger come from? If I'm not allowed to blame anybody for the anger, then where am I getting it from? What do I do with it? Do I own it? Do I not? Do I temporarily own it? Okay, so this is what we're doing. I want you to let go of the feet. You might want to slide them forward just a tad. As I take the block out, I want to turn it to its medium width and slide that between my feet. You're going to start to notice that it's going to be harder to bring the feet in as close as they were originally. That is okay. So just grab onto the front, sit up as tall as you can, let the knees fall towards the earth, close your eyes. So I think the answer comes down to this. And frankly, we've talked about this before too. If somebody gives you a gift that you do not want, do you have to accept it? Do not give me, well, I'd be polite. I'd tell them I love it. I'd white lie it out. You don't have to accept it. What if it is a basket of negativity? Do you have to accept it just because it was given to you as a gift? So then the follow-up question is, what do you want to own? And while I leave that as a dangler, I want you to open your eyes, slide your feet away from you again. Block goes to its longest width. Hug in on that block. Your feet might not be able to move any closer to you. That's totally fine. It's getting more challenging, isn't it? I'm grabbing the ankles now because if I grab my toes, I have to lean forward. So grab wherever you need to maintain a straight spine. Close your eyes. Okay. Open your eyes. This time, we're taking the feet up onto the block. And so you can leave the block where it is. If you feel like you want to pull it in closer, you can. Doesn't matter. It's your experience. That part you do have to own. It's your experience. You own that. So make the decisions according to ahimsa. Non-violence, non-harming to the body. Okay, and then if you've been with me a long time, you know my definition of fun might be a little warped. I'm not going to lie about that, but that's okay. Just because I like to make you laugh and smile. So tip back a little bit into your sit bones. Like your feet are not on the ground right now, so you already are kind of balanced, retreating just a tad. What if we were to take the right arm underneath the right leg and the left arm underneath the left leg and then just kind of kick off? Don't you like how I said, what if we were to do that? That left it wide open. We could have all rolled backwards. I don't know, whatever happened, happened. All right, set the legs down, move that block. I don't know about you, but I feel like popping over into table and giving my hips a break from those extended hip opening poses. So let's find table and cat cow when you're ready. And then let's go ahead and move the legs together. Sit back onto the heels. Stretch the arms forward, draw up the forehead. Option A, stay right here. Option B, we're going to find rabbit. So I'm going to bring my arms behind me. Now, you do have some variations with the arms that we can chat about in a moment. So the first one is to interlace the fingers behind you in yoga mudra, and then lift the hips so you roll right onto the very top of the head. Remember, you are not on your forehead. So if you came up and the forehead's down, I mean, if you want to, you can look at the screen for a moment and just see how awful this looks on my neck. We do not want that. And if you can't get the top of your head down, you have other options. A, don't do the pose. B, grab a pot and put it out in front of you. Maybe then you might be able to get your head flat, right? If you don't like your arms up behind you, you can grab onto your heels. Please note that if you're grabbing the heels, the feet, don't let the feet lift off the ground. So if you can't reach the heels, you could grab the calves. You could also keep your hands planted on the mat if that makes you happy. All right, give me 3 more breaths there, because by now you've been there quite a while. And then coming out of rabbit, release the arms first if you took them, especially if you took them up behind you. Slowly bring the hips back down, in which case you will roll onto the forehead. And let's just hang out here for a moment. If your head's hanging in space, you can grab a prop. And then gently lift the head. If you took a prop, set it aside. And I'm just gonna really gracefully crawl my way forward onto my stomach. You'll be happy to know we're coming into gecko on the left side. So right arm comes across the mat in front of you to make a pillow for the right ear. Left knee pops out to your side. Left arm is in scarecrow. This is a hip opener, so see if you can soften the hip down towards the earth and close your eyes. If you're on a hard floor, you might want your blanket underneath the left knee. But this is a very peaceful place to be, isn't it? Well, if you didn't have me talking your ear off, but I have another story for you. So one day, Buddha, being followed by a bunch of monks and nuns, wandered his way through a village and decided that they would stop for a rest right there because it was very hot out. And so he found some shade beneath the trees and they sat under the shade and cooled off. And Buddha liked to take those opportunities to teach. And so as he was speaking, other villagers started to, hear that, oh my gosh, Buddha is in our village and he's teaching. And so people started to gather. Well, there was one young guy who did not like this. He did not like all the commotion in his village. These people shouldn't be here. He found it very upsetting. And so kind of getting impatient with how big the crowds were getting, he finally yelled out, "Go away. You're just trying to take advantage of us. You just want us to donate money and food. Leave." So if you are familiar with your Buddha stories, you know that this does not ruffle his feathers, right? And so he calls the young man up towards him. Now, I'm going to pause there because I am halfway through that story and I want to balance it out in gecko. So will you please stretch out that left leg? We're going to plant both hands down by the low ribs and find a baby cobra. So even in baby cobra, will you please watch where the shoulders end up? They should not be forward. They shouldn't be rounding forward. They shouldn't be holding my neck. It's as though somebody's pulling on my triceps, pulling them down towards my low back. Nice inhale. Exhale, come on down and take gecko to the right. So we left with this young man yelling at Buddha to leave. There shouldn't be all these people in his village. They were just there to take advantage of them. So the Buddha very calmly called the young man up and he said, listen, if you purchased a very special, lovely gift for somebody and that person didn't want it and refused to take it, to whom does the gift belong? And so the young man thought about this and he said, well, I bought it. I mean, I guess it belongs to me then. And so the Buddha said, yep, exactly. I'm sure he said, yep. Yep, exactly. He says, so you've just yelled at me. You have cursed me out. You have been very angry with me, but I'm not willing to accept your anger. And so if I don't get insulted and angry in return, then doesn't the anger and all the cursing fall back on you? Like it was reflected in water almost. It's a gift returning to its owner. So the young man clasped his hands together and he bowed. And that was an acknowledgement of the lesson that he was interpreting. And so the Buddha continued this way, and I'm going to quote this part of the story. As a mirror reflects an object, as a still lake reflects the sky, take care that what you speak or act is for good, for goodness will always cast back goodness, and harm will always cast back harm. Go ahead and straighten out that right leg. Draw your hands down by the low ribs and emerge into a baby cobra. So I asked you, what do you want to own? If you want to own that anger, you want it hanging out with you, okay. But when you're angry, and especially think of it this way, I know you're in cobra, give me a deep breath. As you exhale, come on down, push back into balasana, child's pose. This story is like asking, when you're angry at somebody and they don't know it, who's being hurt? Right? Have you ever heard that quote? This won't be verbatim because I'm pulling it from the resources of my mind. If you drink poison to try to kill your enemy, who's it harming, right? It's the same context. And so these emotions, regardless of where they came from, are only harming you. Now, having said that, I already said that most of us will not make contact, clear, pure contact with that Atman. We're not going to, most of us, be enlightened in this lifetime. That's okay. This isn't to be discouraging. We're human. We are going to experience those emotions, but we don't have to keep them with us. Have you ever had a really bad day and you thought about it? And sometimes you can go, yeah, I don't want to feel this today. And you kind of move forward and get out of it. But there are other times where you might be having a bad day and you're like, yes, I want to dwell in this. I'm just going to sit with this. Right? I've gone both ways. Sometimes You don't want to let it go. And sometimes you do. So there's a choice. And that's where I'm going to leave you with that question of, what is it you want to own? All right, you're in child's pose. We're taking it to twisted child's pose. I am so done talking your ear off. Walk the arms to the left. And then come back through center. Walk the arms all the way over to the right. We're coming to center. Go ahead and use your hands to pull you up into table. Slowly tuck the toes. We're going to rise into downward facing dog. This is like your last big stretch, so enjoy it. A couple of deep breaths and loud sighs. From here, I'm simply walking my feet halfway forward. One foot will cross in front of the other so I can sit back down, hopefully ending up somewhere in the middle of my mat. And now, this is your space. Grab whatever you want for Shavasana, whatever makes you happy. And come on down. As you begin to get settled, and I know some of you are still grabbing your stuff, just make sure that the feet get to fall wide open. You know, we don't want to stay stoically straight. We really want the body to let go and relax. Palms open, gesture of receiving. Lengthen out the back of the neck, draw the shoulder blades down. So, hopefully, we're going to get really darn close to being blissful. Yeah? Make Shavasana blissful, and you will know when it's time to come back when you hear my voice. Very subtly take your focus back to your breath. And then, as though you were inviting the breath to explore, let it deepen, let it move around inside of you. We are breathing in that blissfulness that we spoke of. Breathing in happiness. Breathing in peace. And if you feel like you want to move, you can invite movement back into the body. If you'd rather stay still, that's fine. And then very peacefully roll to a side in the fetal position. Using that as our compassionate and kind transition to sitting back up when you're ready. If you're still in a fetal position, go ahead and make your way up now. Take a deep inhale through the nose. Loud exhale. Inhale both arms up. Bring the palms together and release them home to your heart in Anjali Mudra, prayer pose. The light in me bows to the light in you. And when I'm in that place in me, and you're in that place in you, then we become one. Namaste.